Welcome to Maria Alejandra Off Topic, the podcast about the non-musical things around music. I am Maria Alejandra Jimenez, violinist, musician, and writer. Off Topic is more than just a podcast. It's a platform featuring articles, essays, and a free newsletter that explores this universe. Subscribe to this podcast and the newsletter so you don't miss any content, and visit the website mariaalejandrajimenez.com. That's Jimenez with a J and a Z. Our guest today is Caitlin Berger. She is a Montreal-based flutist who enjoys organizing solo and chamber performance projects and teaching aspiring flutists. Exploring how music connects the personal to the universal and sharing those discoveries with audiences and students alike is her passion. Her performance projects have included Caitlin's cozy concerts, solo recordings, and various small ensembles with close friends. She fell in love with teaching in 2016 and has been offering private flute lessons in her home in NDG and online around the world, as well as workshops in high schools around Montreal since then. She is also on the board of the West Island Youth Symphony Orchestra as a way to give back to the community that nurtured her love of music in her teens. Now, on a more personal note, how did I meet Caitlin? I first heard her name back in 2022. I was assisting a management course at the Lucerne Festival Academy, and the instructor, Berhan Keres, who will be also a guest in the season, mentioned Caitlin as a great example of a wonderful newsletter. Since then, I subscribe to it and I read it with a lot of pleasure every month. And I can relate a lot to the way she approaches classical music, how she gives space to her many interests. It made me feel less weird for fostering my other passions as well. And she was one of my inspirations to actually start my own newsletter that I sent since May 2024. And I finally replied to one of hers, and since then we've been in contact, exchanging emails and commenting on each other's newsletter, which is really lovely. And I'm super happy to have her in this episode, and today's topic is actually related to her own podcast, is TV shows and movies, and we might talk as well about pursuing an independent path as a classical musician. So welcome, Caitlin. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on today. This is truly an honor. Thank you for everything you just said. That means a lot to me. And I'm so happy that we met and that I love your newsletter. I love your podcast. I get so much out of it. So I'm just really, really, really happy to be here.
Thank you. Is there something else that you would like to say about yourself, or shall we start already?
No, I think we can dive in.
Great. Okay, so the first thing I ask to all the guests in this season is, do you have any recommendation to share? It could be a movie, a series, a book, a place to visit. It can be anything that you've been enjoying.
Yeah, so it's funny because for the last few years, I have gotten more and more into watching television and movies, because when I grew up, I used to read a lot more. But I've tried to get back into reading more this year. And for the last few weeks, I've been reading the book Intermezzo by Rooney. She's the author of the book Normal People, which is a pretty famous TV show as well now. And I was inspired by my friend Sophie, who's like the biggest Sally Rooney fan ever. So finally, this year, I decided to read all her books. This is her fourth one, her most recent one, and it's pretty big, it's pretty long, so it is taking me a while, but it's about these two brothers who just lost their dad, and they're at different places in their lives. There's a bit of a rift between them, so it explores that, but also the relationships that each brother has in their own personal life, and I'm just like, I'm really loving it. I'm kind of happy that I'm reading it slowly so that I can stay thinking about the world, for longer. Whereas sometimes with TV shows, I just binge things and then it's over. But it's been a really nice experience reading this one.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That one is also on my list. I read Normal People some time ago, like some years ago, and I have to say I didn't love it. But I'm still open to explore more of Sally Rooney's universe, especially after some years passed, because I think I was still quite young back then. I don't know if I might have another perspective now, but yeah, that one is on my list, so I will add it, and I'm looking forward to read it as well. Yes.
No, I totally understand. It took me a while to decide to read these books because I thought maybe the style of writing wouldn't be for me. I don't even really know why, but I love the show Normal People and I watched it a few years ago. But I totally understand. It's a very specific kind of writing style, but I recommend her. I recommend any of her books. I think I think Intermezzo in a funny way might be easier to read. I'm not even sure why, but that's the thought that came to mind.
I think also I actually like the way she writes a lot. I didn't like is that in that moment I really couldn't connect to. I really didn't manage to connect to the characters in that moment. I don't know now, but in that moment it was really difficult for me to feel connected to those characters. But
I'm curious if you I'm curious if you were to reread it now, what you would think, or have you seen the show at all?
No, not yet. I will have a look because actually I don't have that many subscriptions. I just pay the subscription when I'm watching a show and then I stop it and then I get another one depending on the show I'm watching or whatever I'm watching. So, yeah. Great. So I wanted to ask you, what is your first memory associated with engaging with a TV show or a movie or a media?
Yeah, I actually don't know if I can remember. I was thinking about this when you told me what questions you might ask. And it's kind of sad, but I really don't remember. I'm sure I watched things, as young as 4 or 5 years old, maybe like Disney movies. But I can tell you the first couple of shows that really made an impression on me.
Yeah.
One of them I probably watched way too young, but that's okay. But one of them is the show So You Think You Can Dance, which I don't know. I think it's still going on now, but it's a dance competition and I was obsessed with it. I forced my parents to take me to different cities in the US to go see the dancers on tour after the season would end. I was obsessed with that show. And I think I just it made me realize that I liked the arts no matter what it was. Even though I liked musical theater by that point and then the flute a bit later. I just loved watching people do artistic things. So that was really fun. And then the show that I probably watched too young was Grey's Anatomy, which I do not still watch. I stopped after maybe 7 or 8 seasons. But it really, I every time I think about it, I just I don't know who I'd be if I hadn't watched that show. I was I don't know how old I was, maybe 12. I was in elementary school. I was still young when I was watching it, and I would I would talk to this lady at school who was our lunch monitor, who would watch us while we kept track of us as we ate our lunch. And for some reason we got to talking, and I found out she also watched it, and so we would talk about this show together. But just being able to see so many people of different races and ethnicities on TV and as doctors and as important people, really, I think was so formative and special for me. And it felt completely normal. I didn't watch this, and I just I think really shaped my worldview. So I'm just always super grateful for that.
That's really cool. I can relate a lot to what you experienced with the other show because also for me, like something that was very formative for me was actually watching movie, and particularly one that really impacted me as a kid was Fantasy 2000 from Disney. And actually, my very first musical memory, one of my very first musical memory has a lot to do with it, because I will watch that and I will actually dance with the music for like hours. I could spend hours just dancing and listening to the music. And I realized also from very young that I actually like to engage with the arts, no matter what it was. I also liked to watch people performing, to perform myself, and that was also very, very important for me growing up.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about things that impacted you, is there a person or a situation in particular that influenced you as a musician or as an artist or as a person in general?
Yeah, definitely. I have to say one of my best friends, Jackie, who does the podcast with me, watched it. I met her in 2015, so it's been 10 years, and I was starting university at the time. We were both flute players, and so we were at the same university. And she basically, I think, completely reshaped or re-inspired me to watch more TV and to read and to watch movies, like in such a special way. Like, she has watched way more than I have in both of our lifetimes. But what really inspired me was how open she is to all genres, to just watching anything, basically, and reading anything, and not discriminating against like any genre or anything. She's just so open to consuming like all sorts of media and art. And I'm trying to be more like her. It's taking a long time, but since meeting her, like, that's how we bonded at first. We talked about the first time we met, we were at a flute party, which sounds nerdier than it was. It was just a party for people at the university who were flutists. But we just started talking, and I don't know who asked a question first, but we talked about Doctor Who and reading and the website Goodreads, and just like immediately bonded over. I don't even think we talked about being flute players. Like, it was just about all sorts of other art. So even to this day, like, if we're gonna watch a movie and I'm like, "Are you in the mood for something specific?" She's always just like, "No, like literally anything." And I love that. So I try to be more like her.
That's very beautiful. I love that too. I also I'm also kind of open to almost everything, but it's true that when it comes to movies and TV shows, I am not that open. So this is something that I would like to learn. Like especially with movies, I watch a lot of series. But I have a lot of trouble watching movies. I don't know why, which is something that I don't have with books. With books, I will pick literally anything and read it until the end, no problem. But with movies, I always feel like I don't want to waste my time and I want to choose, and that doesn't allow me to watch as many movies as I would like to watch. So this is something that I would like to learn from her as well.
Oh yeah, that's super relatable to me. Like, I'm very much a mood watcher, so I'm trying to break out of that a bit, and I think I'm going in the right direction. But definitely, like, for movies, I'm the same. Like, I don't know if you have Letterboxd, but I can scroll like all the movies I've added to my watch list, and like, I just keep scrolling sometimes and I can't find anything that I want to watch. So so that can be annoying.
Yeah, I actually I started a Letterboxd account on January this year because I wanted to watch more movies this year, and I'm really not managing. Still, I think I watched like 2 or 3 movies in the whole year, and I don't know why this happens. I even joined a book club in which we read a book and watch a movie a month, and I read all the books without any problems, and I still didn't even finish a single movie since I joined. So not my thing to watch movies, I guess. I think I actually like to go to the cinema more than watching at home. I actually enjoy the act of going to the cinema and watching something outside of I don't know, if what do you think?
Yes. No, I understand that. Yeah. The thing with movies, I completely get, like, it's different to TV shows for a silly reason. Like, I think it's that because for a movie, you know that it's one story for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It feels like the stakes are really high to like choose the right thing to watch to have one complete story. Whereas like reading a book, watching a TV show can be done in multiple sessions. And even if like you'll watch like 3 episodes that would total a movie, like I think you go into it knowing the story's not done. So maybe that's easier to manage mentally. So I completely get that. In terms of going to the cinema, I've started to go more often this year and last year. When I was younger, I went a lot with my family and friends, and then I stopped for a long time. But I really do love that experience. Like last year, I went to see the movie Wicked on my birthday, which was like the best day ever. So that was really great.
That's nice. Yeah, I still have to find my cinema of choice. I just moved to another country. So I moved to Italy, so I still don't even know what are the cinemas that are around me that I actually like. So that's something I still have to figure out. So yeah, hopefully I will find my cinema soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And let's talk a bit about characters. Is there any character or that you can relate to particularly?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, on the podcast I do with my friend Jackie, we did a whole episode on this. It was called our TV Twins. We did it back in 2024. So we chose characters that we thought we really related to in some way. So at the time, I had 3 specific characters I talked about that I think I would still stand by now, even a year later. There was Claire Devlin from Dairy Girls, Ava Daniels from Hacks, and Francesca Bridgerton from Bridgerton. Basically, it's like anyone who is anxious, neurodivergent in some way, maybe introverted, a bit awkward, or someone also who's like artistic, like Ava and Francesca. Those characters are artistic in some way. So those kinds of characters.
Yes, I can relate a bit to that as well. This episode from your podcast sounds like a lot of fun. I still didn't listen to it, so I have something to listen to this week. While
Yay.
I always listen to podcasts while I wash the dishes, so that will be the next one.
Amazing, thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to talk a bit about something very personal to a certain extent. But yeah, I think that lately in my life, I feel like for the first time, I'm getting out of survival mode. And it's a while that I started to feel safe emotionally. And what happened with this is that I started to discover a lot of things about myself that I didn't know that were there. One of those is that this is something I really want to do next. I still didn't manage to do, but I think I might be to some extent neurodivergent. And this is something to explore more. And also I actually realized that I'm queer. So these are like two huge realizations. And since I started to think about that, I realized that every time there is a positive queer representation on TV or some sort of neurodivergent character, I feel really safe and seen, and it's beautiful. So this is something that is happened to me lately. That's quite huge. And also, right now I'm watching Twin Peaks, and probably right now the character I can relate the most to is to Dale Cooper, because I think it's not obvious, but to some extent I think he's neurodivergent, and I just love the character because so far, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm in the middle of the second season. It's such a candid character, and it just makes me so happy. And the way he sees life, I can relate a lot to it, so I really love it.
Oh my God, wow. I am like, my brain is like exploding. Thank you for sharing this with me. I I'm so happy for you with the realizations you're coming to. I've had all of these realizations myself, so I can definitely empathize and relate. And I actually did also watch Twin Peaks for the first time earlier this year. I've only watched the first 2 seasons, so I haven't seen, there's like a movie as well, and then the reboot from a few years ago. And I just, at the moment, I literally just keep forgetting to watch those things. But I did watch the first 2 seasons, and I had the exact same experience watching Dale Cooper, and I was like, wait a second. I think I get how his brain works. And it's one of the most, I think it's the most unique show I've ever watched. There's so much to think about and analyze. It's just like, I can't believe it exists. I'm so glad you're watching it.
Yeah, I am really obsessed with it right now. It's so weird, but somehow it's like, I don't know, I think I found my perfect TV show to watch. I'm so happy about it. So I'm super excited. Yeah. And I wanted to ask also if there is a movie or a TV show that you think about often lately.
Well, it's funny because I was going to say Twin Peaks, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think I finished season 2 about a month ago, something like that. And of course, I won't spoil anything for you. But the season 2 finale, like I watched it at I don't know, a Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. It was very random, but it blew my mind. Like my jaw was on the floor, and like. It took me a long time to watch both seasons throughout this year, but again, it allowed me to think about it for longer. And yeah, for the foreseeable future, anytime someone's going to ask me like, what is something you watched this year that has stuck with you, it's definitely going to be Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I am a bit scared about the finale of the second season because I feel like something is cooking and I don't want to suffer, but I think I'm going to suffer a little bit.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of suffering in this show.
Yeah. And and actually another show that I think about at least every week is a show that you talked about in your podcast is Severance. And also the end of the second season is still like in my brain. Like I cannot stop thinking about it. It's fantastic.
Oh my God, absolutely. That's definitely another one. This season 2 was so good. And like, I hope it, between season 1 and 2, I think it was like 3 years or something of time between. So I hope that won't be the case for season 3. But like that final shot in the finale of them running through the hallway, which doesn't even give away anything because they run through the hallways a lot in that show. Just like the visual, there's like the red light and the music, like, oh, that last shot is definitely like imprinted on my brain.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but yeah, I think this finale kind of changed my life. Like, it's very dramatic to say this, but there is something so cathartic and liberating about it, especially because I feel like very often I'm a person that like to control things, and there is something about it that is so rebellious and so true in a way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and another question related to movies and TV show that I wanted to ask is when was the last time that you cried or you were moved watching something? I am asking that because I cried a lot. I'm very sensitive, so I'm always like crying, even watching the most random things. Like, I don't know, I watched 1 year ago I watched the whole How I Met Your Mother, and I was like crying in every episode, and I was like, why am I crying watching this?
Yeah, I could not relate more to that, so I fully empathize. I started laughing when you asked this question because I'm like, well, an easier question for me to answer is when was the last time I didn't cry? Because yeah, I'm the exact same way. I've always been this way. I'm a very sensitive person in the sense that like I just feel things very viscerally. I feel things very deeply. And so that manifests through crying most of the time. So yeah, I've cried probably like 5 times in the last week about things that I've watched. But one that I want to really talk about is a movie called I Like Movies. So I watched it a few weeks ago, and then I rewatched it with my friend Jackie recently. And I didn't cry the whole time because the movie is I mean, I guess it's mostly a comedy, but it has a few emotional scenes in it. It's a Canadian movie that came out in 2022. In Canada, you can watch it on CBC Gem, but I haven't checked where it's available elsewhere yet. But it's set in the early 2000s, and it's about this teenage boy who's about to graduate high school, and he's obsessed with films. He wants to go to film school in New York. And so because it's very expensive to go to study in New York or in the States, he gets a job at a video store, like similar to Blockbuster. And he's trying to save money. And he's just a very chaotic little boy. And he's a bit of an anti-hero, I think. Like he's a teenager. He's not a fully formed person yet, but he's doesn't have the best relationships like with his mom and with his friends because he's just so focused on being a filmmaker and on watching films. And I love that so much. It's a very funny movie, but like I said, it has some pretty emotional scenes as well. So that made me cry.
Nice. Another one to add to my list in Letterboxd.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing about movies and shows. And I want to link it now a bit with music. And I wanted to ask, how does your passions outside of music nourish also your musical life and vice versa?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always been interested in more than just music. In fact, like growing up, my family was more interested in musical theater, so like musicals, than classical music. I probably only really got interested in classical music when I started the flute. So it was more about the fact that I started playing the flute, and then that's why I started listening to classical music. But before that, it was more like musicals. I also, throughout my teenage years and more recently as well, got really, really interested in watching tennis. I've always had, and of course I was obsessed with reading and TV shows, all of that. So I don't actually know what it's like to only be focused on classical music. And I think what's interesting to me is when I went to university, I realized I was kind of behind a lot of my other flute peers. Like they're way more advanced than me. And they seemed to be really focused on the flute, and it was great to witness. And I thought that a lot of these people would go on to have these like super incredibly successful careers, and I didn't really know what would happen to me. But what ended up happening, which is fascinating, is that a lot of the people I went to school with have completely changed career paths. Some of them are not playing the flute at all anymore. Some of them maybe are in music, but in different roles, which is all completely fine and valid. But it was just like, it's the people that were like the top players. So it was interesting to me. I thought maybe there's a correlation with being very, very, very like having a one-track mind about being a classical musician, and then maybe that leads to burnout. And I experienced burnout as well, but in a different way. So I think having all these other passions and interests made me stay in love with classical music for a long time, because I wasn't thinking about it obsessively every single day. It was the thing I thought about the most, of course, because I was studying it, but I would then go home and watch my shows, or I'd read a book, or so yeah, it allowed me to not burn out as much, maybe.
Thank you for sharing this. I think it's very useful to talk about different paths in classical music, because I think this lacks a lot of representation, and it's very often I feel like in the classical music industry is still not seen amazing that you do other things besides playing your instrument or practicing or getting better at it in any way. And at least in my personal life, that brought me a lot of confusion and suffering, because also coming back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, when I was a kid I was interested in any form of art, and I became a violinist almost by coincidence. It was not really like a path that I chose, but very quick, being a violinist started to take more and more space in my life, and I was always like a very avid reader. I was always writing since I was very little, and something that was that impacted me a lot when I was a teenager and I was started to get a bit more serious about violin was this teacher that once told me to actually stop reading so much, because that was taking away time that was precious to get better at violin. And
oh my God.
this was something that actually I talked about it in the very first episode of the podcast, and from that moment onward I I went through a big period of my life where I was not almost touching the instrument for like 2 or 3 years. So I almost stopped playing music because I started to feel like, oh my God, I have to get good at this, and this is my moment to practice, and I have to focus only on that. And it became something really, I would say, toxic in a way. And instead of helping me to motivate myself, it did the opposite effect. It actually blocked me quite a lot, and it was very difficult to get out of that. And still nowadays, I feel like doing other things. I'm doing it more and more also with this project. This project Off Topic is very important for me. I'm dedicating a lot of time to it, and I actually loving it. But there is still a little part of myself that still feels like I should be practicing. And it's something that still didn't get over with 100%, but I'm getting there. So I think it's very important to talk about these things, because I am sure that a lot of people feel similar, and it's still kind of taboo in a way.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's so relatable to me and to so many people, I'm sure, because it just puts so much pressure on us. Like being a classical musician already has so much pressure attached to it. Especially if you want to be an orchestral musician, like the amount of perfectionism that we have to deal with is toxic, like you said. And I think the more you try and create like a silo where you're only thinking about that and only practicing, it really degrades the richness of it, I think. And I totally understand, feeling conflicted about having these other projects and feeling like anytime I follow a lot of musicians on social media, and they're a lot of them are very well-intentioned, but sometimes they'll be like, okay, go practice. And I'm like, no, stop. Like, we all know that we either, not should be practicing, but like everyone in their own minds, when you're a classical musician, you're telling yourself, I should be practicing right now. So we don't need more of that. Like, I think if anything, it should be like, okay, go rest now. Go do something else now.
Yes, totally. And also I realized that actually when I rest and I do other things and I feel fulfilled as a person, I actually feel better playing violin. I don't know if I get better technically. I actually do, because when I had a wonderful teacher during my university studies in music, and she really encouraged me to mainly take care of myself, to give it like that. That's like my main priority in life before violin. And in that moment, I actually started to progress way more than before, that I was just thinking about it obsessively nonstop. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It makes it's
Yeah.
actually the opposite.
Yeah, and something I tell my students actually is that I remind them it's very, very noble and beautiful to want to play perfectly and to want to be excellent at your instrument. It comes from such a good place inside of us. However, when you actually make that the goal, that's when the stress and the anxiety comes in. And if anything, that's what's going to make you not play quote unquote perfectly. So it's just like where we put our mental and emotional focus. Like what are we actually trying to achieve and how do we want to feel when we play? Because if the goal is like, I want to be the best flutist, I want to play all the notes perfectly every time I perform, like that's great, but you won't actually get there. Like that's not going to create a very joyous experience.
Yes, I totally agree. I think we have a lot of responsibility as teachers, and this responsibility is often overlooked because I think that when we are teaching music, we are teaching more than music. We are actually teaching things that are valuable for our own life, and yeah, as you say, I think it's very noble to try to get really good at your instrument and to dedicate time to it and to improve technically, because these things allow us to play more freely, but that cannot be the main motivation, because when it's the main motivation, depending also on the type of person, but I think for most people that leads mainly to burnout and just not wanting to play or to make music.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you. And I just wanted to talk about one more thing, because I really admire the career path that you created for yourself. I know that you give a lot of importance to teaching, and I find that really, really beautiful, and I really love the approach that you take on teaching and also the things that you do with performance. I know that slowly also you are starting to perform more and more in public, and I wanted to ask you also if you will give an advice, or if you will tell something to a young musician that is feeling a bit lost and is having trouble in finding their path, what would you say?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, by the way, for saying that. I feel like there's so many things I want to say. Well, the first thing that came to mind, which might not sound relevant, but I think really is really to check in with your mental and emotional state in general. Like, yes, there's maybe I could offer some advice about the actual career path of it all, but I think realistically, I'm someone that has dealt with performance anxiety my entire life. So that has completely affected all the choices I've made and the experiences I've had. So once I actually addressed what was going on with me as a person and my nervous system, that made my entire life clearer and better. So I think the younger you can start thinking about that and thinking about as if you do have anxiety, but even if you don't, just like what are you thinking about yourself? How are you feeling on a day-to-day basis? I think that's kind of the best recipe for making the most ideal choices for yourself, whether that's like embarking on a more traditional career path, like if you want to be in an orchestra, or if you want to be more self-employed, freelance musician. I think either way, everything has to be coming from a well-regulated body. So I feel really passionately that in general, we all need more art in our lives and not less. So when it comes to something like television and movies, I know that it's easy for people to think of those things as very frivolous, right? As something that's like mindless entertainment. People tell you don't stay home and watch TV, like go out, go live your life, stuff like that. So it's very easy for society to kind of disparage the TV and film industry. And I understand that there's a lot of not great shows and movies that exist. And I mean, that's fine. Like in every art field, there's going to be not great art, if that even is a thing. But it doesn't matter to me. I think we need to realize that, again, specifically television and movies, those are art forms. And I'm not even like thinking so much about like celebrities and trying to be like praising actors or anything like that when they're like super rich and famous. But I do think that that industry deserves more respect. I mean, we've both had our lives changed by watching something. I think especially during the COVID lockdowns in 2020, like that's what everyone was doing, right? If you were at home, maybe you were reading or baking too, but honestly, like most people were watching things, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it can be mindless if you're not careful. So I think that we all have to be aware of what we consume. But I just kind of want to remind people that all kinds of art are important to having a really rich life as a human being. I think we all need to respect artists more, including musicians. But like, I know people really like to make fun of actors, but like actors are artists. Like, I'm sorry, it's just true. And so I think it's just important to remember that. And I think all artists deserve, livable wages, all of that sort of thing. So that's my little soapbox that I'm on.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And I totally agree. And I also think that actually watching movies and watching TV shows can be a social experience because, for example, me, I always watch things during the meals with my partner. And it's a moment that we have to do an exchange, both of us, because very often we discuss a lot about what we are seeing, and that sparks so many like debates and conversations that normally we wouldn't have if we were not watching something that is not about ourselves, that is like outside of ourselves. And I think art eventually is that, no, is helping us see things from a different perspective, and it doesn't have to be like an individual thing, because I feel like when it comes to watching things, it's like sitting in the sofa of my house alone. That can be also that, but I think that when we watch other characters or actors playing other life situations, it's also a way of reflecting in real time on topics and things that normally we would not reflect about. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. Like storytelling is so human. Like it's maybe the most human thing about being a human is craving stories and telling stories, and however that manifests, like as musicians, that could be through music. But I agree that it can and maybe even should be a very social thing, even if you're just talking to someone about what you watch. Like that's one of the most special parts of my life, for sure. So I love that you said that.
Yes, great, thank you. So before we wrap up, I have a couple of dynamics to do with the guests. So we get to know you a bit better. And this season, I actually changed it a little bit. So the first one is a series of questions inspired by the Proust questionnaire. Do you know it, or?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's a series of questions to get to know people better. And I have 24 questions, so I will ask you to tell me a number from 1 to 24, and then we can answer to it together.
Okay, I'm going to go with 6.
6, so here we go. Which activity makes you forget about the world?
Oh, I actually think it's teaching the flute, funny enough, because I experience it as a bubble. So when I'm in a lesson with someone, it's like what the world is the flute for that hour. And I always get this feeling when I'm done the lesson and I like get out of my chair or get out of the room and I go, oh, right, yes, there's a bigger world that exists. Yeah, what about you?
Me, it will be reading, I think. Yeah. Definitely.
Love
Reading
that.
and, of course, sleeping. But it's because I have very intense dreams and it's like I go to another dimension or something. I don't know.
That's so cool.
Yes. Okay, let's do another one. Can you tell me another number from 1 to 24?
Let's go with 24.
24. Do you have a motto?
Oh, do I? I probably do. I mean, the thing is that my brain is on 24/7. Like, I have thoughts going through my brain at any microsecond of the day. So I feel like if I did have a motto, I'd have 20 of them. But I think, coming back to what I was talking about with the nervous system, I think what I want to be my motto is reminding myself that I'm safe. I know it's a bit cheesy, but just to really connect with my body and remind myself that in most minutes of the day, there's no danger around me, which I'm very grateful for, but just kind of believing that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, do I have a motto? Actually, I kind of have, and I took it from Arthur Rubinstein, the pianist. But I made it a bit my own, and it's that I can. This is going to sound also kind of cheesy, but I can overcome anything because I'm a very anxious person, and very often I imagine always the worst case scenarios of things nonstop. And something that really calms me down is to actually think for real about the worst case scenario, and I very often realize that, but it's fine. I can actually get over it. So that's my motto, I think.
I love that. That I will steal that from you because that's how I want to be as well.
Yes. Do you want to do a last one?
Yeah. Well, why don't you pick a number?
Okay. I will say 15.
Okay.
This is nice. Which music excites you every time you listen to it?
Is it like is it more like what genre or like a specific song or piece?
Can be a specific song or piece or genre or anything. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you something lately maybe that is on repeat for me. It's the new cast album of the musical Evita that was in the West End in London this summer with Rachel Zegler. And it came out on Friday as of when we're recording this. And I've been listening to it nonstop. So honestly, usually musicals, like musical theater songs, get me like really passionate.
Nice, exciting. For me, what is it? I mean, it changes quite a lot because I'm very multifaceted when it comes to music. Something that I'm very excited about lately that surprised me a lot is the new album of Mon Laferte. It's a Chilean songwriter. And I didn't like the singles that she released before releasing the album. So I was scared that it was going to be an album that I don't like. And she launched it and I was like, oh my God, it's incredible. And actually the singles, they make a lot of sense in the context of the album. And I'm super excited because I still didn't listen to the thing properly. So every time I have a bit of time to listen to a song and pay attention to it, I'm super excited lately. So that's the one for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to ask is, you have to imagine like a situation in which you are like disconnected, like doesn't have to be like the typical like desert island, but can be a desert island. But let's say, I don't know, even a retreat or something. Which things would you take with you?
Oh my gosh. Well, if I don't say my flute, I would feel really guilty. So definitely my flute. I think if I was able to take like something to watch TV shows on, then the show I would take with me is Please Like Me. It's an Australian show that came out in, I think, 2013, but I've rewatched it like 4 or 5 times. And it's like maybe just my favorite thing that exists on the planet.
Fun. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And where can people learn more about your work? And is there an event or project that you would like to share?
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. This has been so lovely. So for the podcast that I host, currently we're on hiatus. We're hoping to come back in 2026, but you can still listen to it. It's called Watched It. You can subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can follow us on Instagram. The handle is Watched It Pod. I'm still active on Instagram, even though we're on hiatus. And then for my personal account on Instagram, it's classic.caitlin. So I share mostly flute and music related things there. And I have a YouTube channel where you can listen to recordings that I make. And in terms of upcoming projects, I don't have anything like public yet. It's a lot of like either recordings or like more private performances for now. But I always post like on my website, I have a page where I post the public performances that are coming up, so people can check that out.
Perfect. Thank you. I will link everything in the description. So thank you very much for being here. It was a super nice conversation. And thank you to you, the listener, for joining us on this episode of Maria Alejandra Off Topic. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And remember that Maria Alejandra Off Topic is a bigger platform. Find articles, essays, and the newsletter on the website mariaalejandrajimenez.com. And if you like this episode, share it with your favorite people, subscribe on your audio platform, and leave a rating. It's the best way to support the podcast. And that's all for today. We will meet again very soon for more off-topic conversations. Bye!